Now welcome to another lightning response video where I will once again take a question from the comments and try to give it a rather quick and concise answer, and this time I do think that will actually be the case because this is a topic I've discussed at length many times before, but thought it was worth bringing up again considering it's very likely that the sequel trilogy will indeed remain in the canon. Not that it was necessarily ever in doubt that it would. Disney and Lucasfilm have never even acknowledged or hinted at the possibility of retconning those films. It's mainly been a sort of fan theory. Anyway, for better or worse, depending on your point of view, it does seem likely that we will see more and more links to the sequels in upcoming content, including potentially in The Mandalorian Season 3, especially if some of the leaks and rumors out there are true. Which brings us to one of the, most unpopular things about the sequels for some, and our question from Roikka, and I hope I'm getting that name right, who asked, "Hey Thor, in what situation could you see Luke as he is supposed to be cutting himself off from the Force and exiling himself on an island in the middle of nowhere, and genuinely thinking it's the right thing to do, maybe because he sees himself in danger of falling, and tries to minimize the damage by letting go of his family and friends that he fears losing?" Okay, so first of all, I don't think conceptually that it was the worst idea ever to have Luke exile himself. I'm not saying that was the best or even the route they should have taken with him, only that, for one, the original idea did come from George Lucas himself. He would have done essentially the same thing with Luke, though I'm sure the details would have, of course, been different. And that in Legends, it's not like Luke was perfect or infallible or that he didn't have his fair share of mistakes and losses, and more on that in just a second. And so if he had been perfect and always godlike in the EU, well, that would have been pretty boring, as it would have been pretty boring, though in a way kind of awesome to behold, for Luke to just handle everything with ease in the sequels to be godlike again. I mean, you did want some new characters to shine and be important, of course. I do get the dilemma that Lucasfilm had with Luke in the sequels, as well as the desire to do something both intriguing and profound with him. And so if you're dead set on the idea of a self-exiled Luke Skywalker in the sequels, and bonus points, if you're looking for a way to sort of fix the sequels and that fateful night with Luke and Ben in the hut to give it more context, that night where he reacts after seeing a dark future in his nephew's mind and contemplates killing him, clearly forgetting like one of Yoda's first lessons about how always in motion the future is, meaning what he saw there wasn't set in stone and could have been prevented. Well, for one, you don't have it be the future that Luke sees, or not entirely. You sort of steal a page out of the EU's book and have it be where Luke sees that Ben had actually killed Luke's wife in the not-too-distant past, but that he, Luke, had thought it was someone else, and that he had ended up going off on that person and killing them, which is essentially what he did do in Legends. He didn't initially know Jason had killed Mara Jade, and he took his vengeance out on someone else, and I mean brutally so. So what you can do is essentially just copy and paste what happened in Legends or the EU into the sequels. You have it be where Palpatine, who was every voice Ben ever heard in his head, you have it be where he had somehow, some way convinced Ben to kill Mara Jade, maybe out of jealousy or something like that. Maybe Ben was jealous Luke was spending more time training her rather than him. Then you have it where Palpatine knew eventually Luke would figure out the truth, or that Palpatine would get an opportunity to show Luke what had actually happened, that at some point Luke would peer into Ben's head, and that he'd have this chance to show Luke, that Palpatine would somehow control the vision, and that he, Luke, would have a reaction that would not only push Ben to the dark side, but get Luke out of the picture, that he'd exile himself, because Luke would be afraid if he encounters Ben, he's just going to slaughter him, that he almost did slaughter him, and that he had slaughtered someone else who he thought had killed Mara Jade. Heck, for good measure, to really cement Luke's reaction, you could even have it where Mara was pregnant, but Ben didn't know that when he killed her. And so going back to the initial question, I think that's one of the best ways to have Luke exile himself. Again, if you want to go down that path, have him afraid that what he is going to do is going to hurt the ones he cares about the most. And this could, in theory, still be, if you will, kind of copied and pasted into the sequels when you consider we, the audience, never saw what actually happened that night. We only saw their version of events, versions of them that could have been heavily influenced by the will of Palpatine. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think about all this, or to ask a question for a future video. And a big thank you to everyone who has been asking those questions. There's been many I've wanted to get to or been meaning to get to, but of course, there's only so many videos I can make. Either way, do leave your questions and comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.